Hi everyone. So this session is about the confirmation of enlightenment. This will be the final talk that usually Ayya gives during a wisdom workshop that's held in Bagavath Mission. Usually we have about 2 to 3 days, and after going through various different aspects and understanding what enlightenment is and what enlightenment is not, and going in depth and details of how the mind functions in ordinary psychological terms and also in spiritual terms. After going through all those various topics, this would be the final session. Always delivered by Ayya. And because we wanted this to be available for the aspirants that are in any parts of the world, we are trying to bring this available in multiple different languages, including English. And I'm Hema from Bagavath Mission, just doing that job. So, understanding enlightenment of what it is and what it is not. Basically, we just say that any state of mind, any emotion, any particular thought, feeling, whatever is true at this moment for me, inside me, is fine, is okay, is all right, and it's perfect. Whether it's a hatred feeling, or a disappointed feeling, or a worried feeling, or a frustrated feeling, or a blissful feeling, or an ecstatic feeling, whatever it is right now at this moment that I'm experiencing is all right. It's just what it's meant to be. And just being okay with that. Just accepting. When I say accepting, it's not we are doing anything in particular in order to accept it, but just allowing it to be the way it is, as it is at this moment. Because of the knowledge that anything in our psychological world cannot be altered, changed, framed, frozen, elongated, prolonged, or shortened. Knowing that the mind doesn't function that way, and just allowing it, just because there's nothing to be done and nothing can be done. So just allowing anything that's right now inside of us to be as it is what is enlightenment. So, what is the need for confirmation? What is that we need to confirm? And why do we have to confirm? And how do we confirm that this is all enlightenment is? And how do we verify? How do we validate? And how do we end this non-stop seeking or the desire to become something? So that's all this session is about. I would like to share a story, one of my very favorite stories that Ayya shares. So there is this beautiful, great master, enlightened Zen guru who has an ashram. And so there are some seekers that come from various different parts of the world, to come and be with him and to understand what life is about, to understand the truth, and to feel liberated. So when they come, they have a very warm welcome, and they are greeted with so many different rituals, and then they are asked to choose their favorite fruit juice or the ashram's favorite drink. So they have two choices in front of them. One is to pick their favorite fruit juice, whatever it may be, or to pick the favorite, the ashram's best drink. So all these seekers were just, very curious because they all know what their favorite juice is and they've all tasted it. So they were like really interested in in tasting the ashram's best drink. Because that's a world famous ashram, and so the drink should be also something wonderful and fantastic. So their imagination goes wild, and then all of them seek out for their ashram's best drink. So guess what? All of them were given a glass of plain, pure water. So it's like, okay, so is this the ashram's best drink? And the other yogi says, yeah. The other saint says, yes, this is the ashram's best drink. And so they go on with just having water. And then after a week or so, they were asked, they were given another chance, and they were asked the same question: would you like to change your option? Would you like ashram's best drink, or would you like your favorite fruit juices? And everyone is like now aware, right? So they're like, oh no, we don't want ashram's best drink at all. We want our favorite fruit juice. So each one of them picks their favorite fruit juices. But guess what? After they get their favorite fruit juice option, from that moment onwards, whether it's day or night or evening, whenever they feel thirsty, they were given one and only that favorite fruit juice. So, for example, if somebody opted for a grape juice, he was given grape juice morning till night, anytime and every time. And so imagine what would have happened. They all felt like throwing up, because they literally started hating their favorite fruit juice forever. So what is exactly the story says is that when we go and tell somebody about enlightenment or liberation, the same thing happens. Imagine you are a person that has never tasted water. Right? Now, if I was a seeker that was in that ashram, and I have underestimated that water before because it was just plain old simple water, and then I was given my favorite fruit juice, but I can't take it forever and ever, and then I go back to my previous option, because now all the seekers opted for their ashram's favorite drink, just plain old water. So imagine, after coming from that ashram, if I tell you that, you have never tasted water, and I'm going to tell you that water is something that's beyond any fruit juice, that's just simply extraordinary than any of your favorite fruit juices could be. What would happen? Your imagination will go wild, and you will start fantasizing and imagining something so much different, better, superior than any of the fruit juices, right? Like you would imagine a totally different taste or something very unique about this drink. So, but that's not the truth. Water is simple water. So the same thing happens when we say that enlightenment is, this is all it is. Just being okay with whatever mental emotional state we are in. It sounds ridiculous to those highly invested spiritual seekers, because they imagined enlightenment to be something mystical, something blissful, something extraordinarily out of the world experience. But the matter of fact is, enlightenment is just simple, plain, old, pure water. What does it mean? So, whatever is true at this moment, whatever is the experience or the emotion that I'm experiencing right now, is what there could be. And then that's fine. And I cannot change it or modify it. And there's no need to be. And simply coming to terms with this fact, by knowing that our mind is functioning this way, and just giving a okay for that and coming to terms with that, is what is awakening to the truth, and that is what enlightenment is. So then why do we think it's the other way? Let's dive into that. So actually, if we see a lot of the Enlightenment masters, most of them, like Ramana Maharishi or JK, or even, the Reiki master Usui, for that matter, any enlightened masters, they have come to the same conclusion, one way or the other, where they were put into a situation where they are striving so hard to know deeper into their mind, to understand how it's all working, and to purify the mind and to change it. But then at one point or the other, they are just confronted with a particular scenario, and then they just let go of trying to change their emotional psychological aspect. So at that time, what happens is they simply let go. They let go of their efforts, and they discover a beautiful, already existing. That's why enlightenment is not some new invention. It's a discovery, because it's already there. They just see that the mind already is in that state. So we all know Buddha, and he put himself through very much strenuous efforts. He left his kingdom, and his whole life he contributed, and he made efforts to understand about human suffering and to find the salvation for human suffering. So he goes on doing so many different meditations, tapas, and so many different sadhanas. He literally crucifies himself. And then one day, I mean, of course, he has so many blissful experiences, mystical experiences, and whatnot, but he still thinks that that's not what he's seeking for, and he still thinks that that's all impermanent. So one day he just lets go of let go of all his efforts, and just becomes helpless, and he just accepts his failure to become something, to find something that was permanent, and he just drops everything and sits under a bodhi tree, and whatever he was seeking for and striving for just falls to his lap naturally, because he then, like, he's so amazed by the already existing nature of mind that is always flowing, always changing, and it's completely fine by itself. And that state, I mean, that flow of the mind, where there was no desire to be anything, to become anything, he calls the nirvana state. But then, why is all this misunderstanding? Because we just think that desire is a cause of all suffering. That's like a very superficial teaching we got out of Buddha's life, actually. The whole complication and the mystification is because even though the enlightened masters have attained or have come to that point of helplessness and accepting their mind as is, without having to do anything, and with just not being able to do anything, they all find that the mind is already in a liberated state, which means anything that's coming is going, and anything is constantly changing inside the mind's landscape. And so what the problem is, only when we try to interfere and try to hold on to something, or when we try to resist something, we cause interference with that natural flow. So we are already in a liberated state. That's what Ayya calls pravaham, which is like, a waterfall, a non-stop waterfall. So you're not seeing anything twice. So anything that's coming is constantly moving and changing, and it's always in a very fluid flow form. So why all this confusion is because it is a lack of communication. It's a lack of yes, they discovered these states, but they really don't necessarily have to have known that only because they dropped everything they got this, right? So it's like there is a funny story about you might have heard about Ramayana. So Rama goes. So the story goes like this: he's a prince, and there is a Swayamvara where the girl chooses the right prince. If the prince is able to, do a certain act of bravery. So there is a bow and arrow, and there is a beautiful fish. Picture or something on the wheel on the top of the ceiling, and all these princes from so many different kingdoms are invited for the Swayamvara, and so each one of them goes and takes the bow and tries to aim at it, and first of all they're not even able to use the bow and string, and so after everybody has taken their turns, and Rama comes and he's able to bend it and do it and aim it and shoot it, and then of course he wins Sita. But we used to make fun of it, saying that it's not really Rama that made that action possible. It is all the other prince that were before actually put some effort, in bending that. And then on top of that, when Rama got his turn, it was already kind of in a state where it could be broken. I'm just sharing this story because it's not so. All these great people, great Enlightenment people, might have thought that it is because of all the efforts that they put in, it culminated into a climax, and then thereby this liberation happened. But it's not the case. If you are making efforts to reach a particular state, either through meditation or sadhana or whatever practices you are doing, it is like traveling towards the North Pole, right? And when you are leaving all the efforts and just being there, you are just opening up to the fact that the mind is anyways all right. It is functioning as it should be. So by traveling North Pole, so if enlightenment or understanding ourselves and the liberation is at the South Pole, it's like all your practices and sadhana are only taking you away from where you want to be. Right? Because you're already there. So because of so many different miscommunications or overemphasis, and it's nothing wrong, they try to communicate in the way that was possible for them, because it is very simple understanding. It's a simple truth, as well as it's the magnificent truth, right? So it takes a deliberate effort, just like how Bagavath Ayya has done. It takes a deliberate effort to kind of keep you very much restrained and not mystify this enlightenment or liberation. Because in essence it is. Actually, Bagavath Ayya says, it is only after you understand what enlightenment is does your actual life begins. You start living only with this basic understanding of life, basic understanding of your mind's manual, basic understanding of how we operate. So all these are not the end product that somebody should seek towards their end of their journey or end of our life. Rather, it is a starting point. So we are awakened to the truth that this is all there is to, and we are enlightened with the way of how our mind functions, and then we completely allow the natural flow. We completely accept ourselves as who we are, basically, in our psychological world, in our internal world. So how do we confirm this? That this is what enlightenment is. There are a couple of different ways. As soon as you understand this is how we are made up of, this is how our mind functions, you can try various different aspects to kind of question it, to doubt it, to test and verify whether it is otherwise. For example, you can take a particular experience or you can take a particular emotion and try to prolong it or shorten it. Or, for example, try to be angry for 3 consecutive days, completely 24/7. You simply can't. Or try to be, always smiling and happy for consecutive 7 days or whatever, or even a day. So, or even, you have a lustful feeling or a envious feeling or a jealous feeling, whatever feeling may be, just try to prolong it or try to shorten it. It doesn't work that way. It just comes and maybe it stays for a while because we indulge in that, and then it just goes and it flows. So by observing this is how the mind functions, we can understand this is the truth, right? And the second way is, when you understand this is what there is to, and what happens is you're no more in an internal conflict with yourself. You're not struggling within yourself, and you just you don't wish to be this and that or something that's not. You're not in a denial, and you don't wish to be anything but whatever there is at this moment that's true for you. So as soon as this internal conflict kind of fades away, there is a natural peace, right? And so we are just coming to terms as who we are by accepting whatever we are at that moment, which is constantly changing with our nature, with our feelings, with our thoughts, with our emotions, with our experiences. So now we are completely fine with what we are. And so when we are in that state, we naturally let mind to function on its own, in its own way. And so, which is what is already happening. When we don't interfere, what is already there is what is running. So in that particular state is what we call the liberated state, right? So understanding that we don't have to change anything, and not changing anything and just accepting is enlightenment. And because of that understanding, when we don't interfere in that already existing flow, that flow is called liberation. So basically liberation is where we are already at this moment. So it's not something to be sought after. It's not something you get after samadhi. It's not something you get out of your sadhana or practice or meditation. Of course, it's not a blissful state. So now, this is how we verify and validate. But how do we know that this is what it is, right? So let's see an example where, first of all, what can go wrong, or how can we miss this understanding, right? So when we all started as spiritual seekers, we all entered the spiritual field to sort out some of our personal problems, to sort out some personal issues. So when we are in the beginning of the journey, we blame everybody else. We blame everything else, the environment we are, the people we are, and all that. And then after we grow, or after we progress a little bit, we start blaming ourselves. We think that only because of our subconscious mind, only because of our programming, only because of our childhood trauma, only because of my such a hatred nature, only because of all the shame and guilt in me, whatever that is, we blame ourselves. And so we get into the spiritual world in order to sort ourselves out, right? Because we come to a conclusion that, of course, we cannot sort the outside world, we cannot sort the other people, so we are here to sort ourselves, change has to happen within ourselves, which is true in one sense, but not so true in a different way. So we come into this spiritual world wanting to purify ourselves, wanting to sort ourselves, wanting to redefine ourselves, reprogram ourselves. What does that mean? We want to pick and choose the good, effective, nice to have emotions, feelings, and thoughts, and call ourselves the best, when compared to other people. Well, this works for a while. You're happy, you're insulated of all the problems that you came that was chasing you are insulated now. Everything feels great, and it is true, the more sincere you become in your sadhana or practice, and you put in more time, effort, and of course in many institutions a lot of money. So when you put in all the resources and yourself, of course you see progress, of course you see a lot of improvements that are very helpful. But then it's like, one of those mechanical toys, or like I have for my son, I have a lullaby toy. So you have to just key in, and then it sings all this lullaby melody. And then once that churning, the torque we call in engineering. So once the torque is over, it releases itself. So if I have to play that again, I have to tune it in. So all these spiritual experiences, we have to tune over and over again in order to keep ourselves in a particular state. So as a naive and sincere aspirant, what we think is, okay, we are doing so much, but if we go even more, if we are devoted to it, if we are committed to it, if we are, if we spend even more time, maybe we would be able to elongate this experience. We would be able to prolong this blissful experience. So that's a very natural kind of a approach. So we are doing something, we are investing, we are giving some input, we are getting some output, a result. We think that if we invest more, we are going to get more of the blissful experience or the spiritual experience. And when we are able to keep and hold on to that spiritual blissful experience for as long as we live, as long as we can, then that is what is the final climax or the enlightenment. Is it really true? That's how we all have taken the road towards the spiritual growth. But only to find out that either too much of blissful experience result in too much of physical ailments, or just that it's all vain. And then what do? We switch the masters, we switch ashrams, we switch different practices, we switch day and night of practice, whatever that is. We do all sorts of things, but all aiming to prolong and hold on to that great spiritual experience. So now, once we know that that's just simply impossible, we come to a roadblock. We don't know what to do. We don't have any further to go. At the same time, we are not able to accept our failure. This is exactly what happened in Buddha's life too. But he was a smart person. He accepted his failure sooner than later. So now, after accepting our failure to prolong something, what do we find? That simply nothing can be prolonged. Anything that comes has to go. I know this breaks down a lot of aspirants, because the whole image and investment and identity that we have built upon is based on all these beautiful, blissful spiritual experiences, right? And Bagavath Ayya he just trashes everything down, saying that any blissful experience is also just a mere bodily, physical experience. I don't know about you, I was bummed because of that. as any physical experience, because you have to have a body in order to feel anything, in order to experience anything. And anything that's beyond, you call it Almighty or the universe or whatever that is, you cannot just experience and feel it. So if anything that can be, contained as an experience, it's not even bigger than us, you know what I mean? So we are all aspiring for that. And then we go into this whole myth about enlightenment and liberation, and then we lose track. So Bagavath Mission is, the mission of Bagavath Mission is only to kind of shake us out from that zombie state, from that illusion, and just bring us all to the awakening, to the simple truth. You know what? Good news. You don't have to do anything in order to be who you are, because you already are who you are. You just have to understand this fact. And once you understand and let go of all your efforts, you're in your liberated state, and that is liberation. And just because it is so simple, this is how many of us could miss the boat. We overlook it because of its simplicity. Just like plain old simple water. We might think that, are they trying to sell a bottled water for such a, big deal? Actually, it is. So, it takes so much courage to go out in this $1,000,000,000 industry and to call upon all these spiritual experiences as not leading to enlightenment or liberation, and just boldly putting this truth, the simple truth, out there to awaken all of us. And I'm so grateful that Ayya has done that. He himself says that he has tried for over 40 plus years to understand, to attain enlightenment. And once he did understand, he was not ecstatic. He was like, this is so simple. Why did we have to chase this so bad? Why was this so challenging and difficult? So now, when we make things simple, it kind of, it kind of relaxes us, and we try to understand. Just the intellectual understanding is enlightenment. So how does one practice after enlightenment? There's nothing to practice. Literally, there's nothing to practice, because it is just a simple intellectual understanding. If you can add 1 + 1 = 2, then you can understand this. It's a simple intellectual understanding. So some of us think that, do I have to remember this in order to know and always remember that I'm enlightened? No, you don't have to. It is a simple understanding, and once you have understood this is how your mind functions, and you have come to that conclusion, you don't have to really practice anything or reassure anything, except just confirming that you have understood is very, very important. Once we have understood that this is what enlightenment is, and we have confirmed for ourselves, we kind of completely let go of our need or urge to change ourselves internally, to redesign ourselves internally, and we completely embrace our psychological structure as is. So then what happens after enlightenment? Then, when everything is in a liberated state, we call it liberated state because that's a state when the mind's function is not interfered. That's a state. But enlightenment is an intellectual understanding. So what happens after that is one becomes relaxed. Some even have some mystical experience, some peaceful experience, some being one with everything. All those experiences may come, but not necessarily it's predicted for everyone. But even if it comes, even that goes away naturally after a certain period of time, which is also okay, right? That's what we have understood, that we cannot retain and hold on to a particular state, whether it's a great blissful experience, or whether it's a so-called a hatred feeling, or a so-called bad experience, or a pathetic experience. So when we are able to just come to that realization, life becomes easy. So all the energy and efforts and the focus that we were directing towards our internal self, to fix our mind, to change ourselves, to kind of like mix and match and modify of who we should be inside, kind of all that energy is kind of now available for us. It's no more needed to fix anything inside. So all that energy and effort and the whole vitality kind of comes to your hand, literally to your hands, because whatever you want to do externally in the physical world, now you have so much freedom and energy to focus on your actions that needs to be done by you and only you. So as much as we give freedom to our internal self of not doing anything, Ayya's teaching stresses on taking responsibility in our hands to do what is the right action that needs to be done in the physical world for one's well-being, for one's family, and one's community. Because that, it doesn't happen by itself. You can't wait for somebody else to fix what's externally out there. So you have to take the right actions to do whatever that's needed in the external world. But in the psychological world, you're completely free. You don't have to do anything at all. So if you really, really want to care about something genuinely, it is simply not possible unless you are free, unless you have given yourself the permission to be just as who you are. Once we liberate ourselves from all these expectations and strict rules and conditions about ourselves, we have this beautiful energy and focus to do what is right on the external world. And hence, confirmation is very, very important, because once for all, you close this chapter of your life of constant seeking, of constantly wanting to become something. Now, usually after the confirmation, at the end of confirmation session, Ayya asks these questions, right, for validation. So he goes like this, right? That there is a story of an enlightened master and a disciple, very sincere disciple, and he stays with the master, and he understands everything that needs to be understood, and he understands how the mind functions, and then he kind of tells his master that yes, I have understood. And the master says, okay, now that we both are at the same level, right? So there's no more teacher and a disciple. You understand everything as it is. So now let's part ways and let's spread this truth. So once they part ways, the disciple goes into few places where it's all blissful, peaceful, beautiful, a countryside. And wherever the master goes, there's always some kind of restlessness, some violence, some ransom stuff going on, and there's always some conflict and very violent situations happening in those villages wherever the master goes. Now, because of all those external things, there's always some tension that the master has to handle. But the disciple is so peaceful, blissful. So now, who do you think is the most enlightened person? So this is the question he puts before us. So some says, oh, did the master get tensed? Oh no, he can't be like that. So he's not even enlightened. He's out of his enlightenment status. And the disciple was so blissful and peaceful, like how an enlightened person should be. So he's the enlightened person. Some say like that, and some say no, they both are equal, because it all depends on what the external world. So our mind reflects the emotions based on what's happening outside of us. But that doesn't mean the master is not enlightened. So they both are in the equal category. So now I'm sharing the story just like how Ayya would do, even though we are not having conversation, because you see, just because we are enlightened, this is a very crucial part we need to understand in order to confirm. Just because we are enlightened doesn't mean that we are given only the so-called good feelings and emotions, right? So I could be angry at this moment, and I could be completely goofy the next moment, and I could be completely envious and jealous when I see my neighbor having something that I don't have, and then I could be totally blissful another second just when I'm doing some chores. So there is really no particular kind of selective emotions that's going to follow us just because we are enlightened, right? So the mind is like a child. It's just going to throw whatever emotions that comes up as a byproduct of our identity facing the external world or the external situation. And any emotion is just energy. If we want, we can use it. If we don't care about it, we can just let go. So we have that freedom. There is a space between our emotions and the actions we dispatch. We could either use it or just ignore it. So now, after we are enlightened, like when we understand what enlightenment is, this is what we understand exactly, that there is no particular right or wrong way to feel. All emotions are fine. In fact, all emotions are going to be, and there is no need to lock a particular so-called good emotion or to resist a particular bad emotion. So do Ayya get angry? Yes, of course he could get upset if things don't go the way he wants it to be. But does he act out? No, definitely not. He's he has that gap so much that he completely honors his anger. At the same time, he is completely sane to not act out on that. And just by the way, and this is what is called emotional intelligence in the corporate world, right? So we are not going to suppress and pick and choose what emotion we could have or we can have. It's just that in spite of all those emotions, we need to take intelligent, informed decisions. That's good for us, and that's good for the well-being of people around us. So that is what is called emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, according to me, could never be attained unless we understand this basic truth about enlightenment. Maybe you may not be so much spiritually involved or interested, but just know that this is how the mind functions, this is how the emotion functions. And when we have no need to pick and choose a particular state of emotion, then automatically we become intelligent about the emotions and we use the energy if needed or not. So now, yes, I am an enlightened person, because I understand this is how the mind functions. And yes, I get angry. Yes, I get mad. Yes, I get sad. Yes, I get depressed. Yes, I get irritated. Yes, I get so happy, blissful, whatever it is. So what's the difference? The speed with which all these emotions come and flow through us, it's kind of it's really so fast. So you don't have to compare me with you or with Ayya or anybody. We can just compare to ourselves. Like, for example, if I would, if I would catch an argument and fight with my spouse, for example, I would be like that for, like, few days even, and I wouldn't know how to get out of it. But now it's like, yeah, we fought, and now, we move on. So any of the emotions doesn't have that strong hold on us anymore. So anything that comes also goes, we allow it. And also, I get so much excited about small little things previously. Even now I get excited, but it's kind of toned down, I would say. But that doesn't mean life is boring or less interesting. It's just that if you need a little bit of, elevated emotion, it serves you. If you need to kind of tone down, that happens as well. So based on our personalities, we kind of deal with the speed and nature of emotions. But whoever we are, whatever our personality type is, it doesn't matter, because we really don't have to fix anything. That's our psychological nature, and we just allow it to be. And giving yourself this permission to be who you are, completely as who you are, in your internal being, in your psychological state, and just embracing yourself as who you are, and not questioning, not fighting, not trying to change even a bit of it, is a place. And that's a place nowhere to go or to reach. That's where we are already there. And so we don't have to go anywhere. We can just be here and now, with whatever we are feeling, whatever that's going on inside. And once that happens, we have that beautiful space where we are not busy trying to fix ourselves or wanting to be something else other than us, really. And that I call uniqueness. You might have seen, there's so much in the corporate world, like, you want to be the purple cow, you want to be unique, you don't do something just for the sake of being unique. You're just unique by yourself. And the moment you come to terms with that and accept yourself as who you are, you're born, you're reborn. So with that, I conclude that this is all enlightenment is. And let's confirm that this is all enlightenment is. And if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer. And I'm telling you, this is such a big breakthrough, whether you are spiritually inclined or not, because it's like the Western psychology kind of gives you like a very superficial idea of, be as who you are, don't change for anything. And it kind of gives a little bit of arrogance, because unintentionally, because it is very superficial. I mean, if you're going to say, this is how I am, this is how I will be, and you go in the outside world and you do something, for example, if I'm super excited, if I'm super annoyed, or if I'm super angry at this moment, if I go outside and act out just because I'm going to accept myself as who I am, and I'm going to be who as I am, and this is how I'm going to behave, that's literally nuisance. That's just not common sense. So there is a place to be as who you are and completely accept all these emotions and feelings of how you are and whatever is going on with you. And then there is a field to play fair, to share with others, where we take sincere caring and responsibility, to keep things sane. So insanity is 100% okay in our psychological internal world, but complete sanity and responsibility is needed in the external world, because there's literally nothing as our identity, because it's an ever-changing identity in our inside world. And we allow that growth, we allow us to change, we allow all sorts of emotions, feelings, and thoughts to come through us. And we are okay to experience anything that's true for us at this moment. But in the external world, we do have an identity. We are accountable, we are responsible, we take roles, we play roles, and we contribute, we receive, and we give. So there is a place for both. And knowing the difference, making it so clear, is what has changed my life, my world. And that is given only by Ayya. He not only simplified what enlightenment is, he clarified he not only busted all the myths about what enlightenment and liberation is, he not only gave a beautiful and a quantum leap update in all these fields, but he also distinguished and confronted the necessity to have two different play fields. And there's always a place to be there. It's just like internal world is just like nature. Everything is happening just like how it's supposed to be. And the external world, the physical world, is the reality that we are creating for ourselves, where we can design or redesign, and we can change things, modify things, we can take out few things and put in few things. So that distinction is given by Shri Bagavath Ayya. I really welcome you all. This is such a, again, I don't want to mystify the teacher or the teaching or whatever that is, but it's a simple truth that's available for all of us. In fact, it's our birthright. Why do we say that it's available for all of us? Because we don't need any resources, we don't need any time, it doesn't take any effort. All it needs is a sincere listening and an open mind, and just willingness to inquire within ourselves and discover this truth. And you don't have to go anywhere. It's right below your feet. It's right now, here and now. So I'm so happy to share this confirmation, and I hope you all confirm your understanding. Thank you.